everybody, welcome to a new Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, and today we're joined by an awesome creator, not just in comics, but also in TV and film. He is the creator-writer of what we're going to talk about today, The Kill Journal, and the 8th graphic novels, as well as a writer-director of Escape the Night, Sagas of Sundry, Spellslingers, and Tabletop. Man, this guy has been around, and he's kicking ass. I'm talking about none other than Adam Lawson. Woo! What's going on, Adam?
Woo! Hey, thank you, Al. That was quite the intro. I think that might be my first intro of that much excitement. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Everybody loves our intro. That's what we do, because we got to pump it up, man, because you're killing it on indie, man. Because as we were just talking prior to going live on this podcast, this is the rise of indie right now. Man,
yeah.
You know, even though COVID may have stopped many industries, but creative types like yourself have been murdering Kickstarters and Indiegogos all over the place. I mean, right now, your current Indiegogo, The Kill Journal, you know, you had a fixed goal of 12K, right? With 25 days to go, you're already at 96 with 159 baggers. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's awesome because we did the 8th. And I did the 8th, Al, in the craziest way, right? I've been working on it for a few years with the artist, and I didn't even necessarily have a real destination. I'm like, I'm going to finish these 8 issues, and then I'll figure out what to do. While I was working in TV, and then COVID hit, and I dropped the 8th without any pre-marketing, just put it up, announced it to my Facebook friends, and then, started hustling, right? And we ended up at about 35 grand on the 8th. And it was really exciting to see, because I always wanted to do indie comics, but there's always always the belief, like, how would anybody ever read it or get to it? Like, how would I ever get in comic shops, or you know what I mean? But I kept seeing these people have success on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And when I had done a tabletop with Will Wheaton, we did a big crowdfunding raise on Indiegogo, which is kind of why I went that way, because it's a familiar platform. And so then it was a success. And then here, The Kill Journal, tracking. It's attracting exactly 4 times at what the 8th was.
At 4 times.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So like views versus, yeah. So it's really cool. It's really exciting to see.
So you're saying that with The Kill Journal, you're doing a lot more promo as opposed to what you did with the 8th.
Yeah. So we spent 2 months doing promos, building a sign-up list, also help cultivating our fans from the 8th. And then also on Indiegogo, Facebook, and Twitter, we've just been working and reaching out to people and doing collabs and connecting and building some momentum for The Kill Journal before we launched it versus the 8th, which was, of course, the realization that any product that needs to come to market, like in any industry, you need to build the hype for it, right? And build people's interest in it so that when it drops, there's somebody there to actually pick it up. So that's been a whole different side that I've realized is really key to, making an indie comic come to life. Is you're half a comic book creator and half somebody who does some marketing.
Oh man. All right. So, before we talk about Kill Journal, let's talk about this journey leading up all the way to that. You're a writer, you've been doing TV, you've done films, you're diving into comics. Have you always been a comic book fan?
Yeah, I remember, how the moment that it really hit for me as I was in the 4th grade, 5th grade, and I was going to a place called Dragon's Keep in Utah to get a Dungeons and Dragons player's handbook. And I remember going into the shop, and for the first time, I looked over and I saw Jim Lee's X-Men, right? And on that cover, Cyclops was all muscly, and he had the sunglasses instead of like the weird visor, and everybody looked so tough and like hip and masculine, and you're like, oh, I want to be like those guys. It was the first time comic books it became cool was Jim Lee's art, right? Yeah. And I think I might not be alone in that, where it was just
I was part of that 90s. I was part of that 90s era. One of the last conventions at the Pennsylvania Hotel was just when those guys broke out of Marvel. So I went to that first New York convention. I stood up. My friend cut the line. Yeah, we cheated, guys. We probably waited maybe a half hour, and I got to meet all these guys just when they just broke out into Image. And what's funny was I have a cable hologram card that was drawn by Jim Lee, right? Wow. But Jim Lee had a crazy line, right? So I see Rob. I say, hey, Rob, would you mind signing? He goes, I didn't draw this. I said, yeah, but your cable's daddy. Because it makes sense. He just went ahead and autographed it. But it's true. That's when the rock star comic book person started coming out. It was that era.
That's right. That's when it hit me, and I was like, "Wow, this is something cool and exciting." It's not kind of some dumpy guy in spandex. It's like now he's this tough guy, and so that's what turned me on to it. Now I've always just had a great deep love of Jim Lee from that moment on, and I just love him as a guy as well. And and so, but then obviously my art choices and story choices have expanded, but that was the initial inception, right? And then I've been in it ever since. And then I think I was doing Snakes on a Plane, and Sam Jackson came to set, and he was reading 100 Bullets by Brian Azzarello.
You mean Nick Fury, Sam Jack?
I'm talking about that one.
Oh,
I'm talking about that one. The real deal. And I see him and he's reading 100 Bullets. I mean, he's a real comic fan. He's not faking it. He's the real thing, right? He's just on set and he's reading 100 Bullets to trade. And I'm looking over and I'm like, wait a minute. I hadn't really gone off the main two, the big two at that point. And I was like, well, listen, if it's cool enough for Sam Jackson, it's got to be cool enough for me. Right. So I went to the comic book shop and I picked up 100 Bullets by Brian Azzarello. And it just lit my whole world on fire, right, Al? Because it was like, wow, this is what a story can be, a non-superhero story can be. And not that superhero stories are great, but it was just like, wow, there's this other world out there. And that really just opened things up for me. And then it really, Image became a lot more of my passion in books. I was always still getting stuff on DC, et cetera, but like I started to realize all these whole other worlds, and that's what led me down this pathway. And why I've been writing and directing in television and film, I always wanted to do some comic books because I loved the idea of being able to make a story and not necessarily have a studio, but make something that I could connect with directly with an audience, Al. And so I was that's when I started the 8th, and it was years kind of in the works. I started hiring concept artists just on my own pocket to kind of build characters for the 8th and for the Kill Journal.
Nice.
All, without even a clear destination at the time. But I was building these stories, and then when COVID hit, it just settled on me one night, just a couple weeks in, because I was literally like, I was shooting March 13th when March 13th when like the client said to us, "Hey, I'm just leaving early. I'm just leaving early because there's this COVID thing," and I'm like getting on a plane, and we're like, the crew were all sitting around. So what's happening again? And it was just that weekend. I was like, you know what? If this shutdown thing's going to happen, maybe this is my chance to push these comic things. And that's what gave me the window where I knew where I'd have the time to do it, to push these out and to make them happen.
So let me ask you here, though, coming from the TV film side and now doing comics, was it, easy to kind of, connect the two in transition, rather, from writing for TV film, and then writing for comics?
Yeah, so I think over the years, I've read Alan Moore's book on writing for comics. I've read lots of comic scripts, and they obviously have a lot of similarities, right? When you're writing a script for a film, you're also writing a product that's not finished, right? You're writing a blueprint that then directors and actors are going to fulfill in the same way with a script for a comic book. An artist is going to fulfill it, right? And so there's a lot of similarities, but what's fun about comics is you're not always stuck in a rectangle, okay, right? And TV and film, I'm stuck at 16 by 9, right? It's always a rectangle, but you can use the panels, the shapes of the panels, the arrangement of the panels to help tell the story. And so that got to be really exciting. And I'd always been really attracted to those books. We were talking earlier about Sean Gordon Murphy. It's like the way he lays out a page and the way that comes to life, even in just like the size of his panels or the way he arranges things, it's like, there's another art in that. And so it was really exciting to try and think through that voice and through that head. And then a lot of it, as far as dialogue and like the important things you learn about in film dialogue, keeping things really concise and short and not writing stuff that's on the nose, really good TV dialogue in lots of ways, I think translates really well to comics.
Excellent. And I want to ask you, since you mentioned Sean G. Murphy, have you read Punk Rock Jesus?
Yeah.
I love that book. I got to see this turn into a movie or something, please.
I know. See, I remember the first thing I saw from him was The Wake. He did with Snyder.
Oh, that was great, yeah.
And I was just like, who's this artist? It's just like, what are these pages? And then it's like, I was like, how can I get anything from this guy, you know?
Yeah. I'm on kind of the same because I'm doing, you know, from that Big Two company, that other title he does there, the White Knight.
Yeah, which I love.
Loved
that. It.
Yeah, it's the Murphy verse. I'm digging it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, it was so cool because it was like, that was the first time in a while that you'd read Batman, and it took you places you weren't expecting. He kind of broke some rules, and sure, somebody's going to come along later and do whatever they're going to do. But for that ride, it was like, this feels fresh once again. And it's hard with Batman, right? It's hard to make that fresh.
And talking about stuff that feels fresh, the Kill Journal.
Yeah.
You got some cool stuff here, man. This is a horror graphic novel about revenants. You know, when I hear the word revenants, it made me start thinking about Mortal Kombat, and survivors who hunt them. Okay, so you said you've been working on this for quite some time, right? But where did the initial seed for this Kill Journal come? Because I mean, the way that the characters, you know, the imagery. If you just look, you know, for those that are watching the vidcast, if you will, if you look at the backdrop, those characters look fantastic, and I'll share some pictures at the bottom of the post for our listeners. But this looks great, man. Where did this all really come from, bro?
Yeah, so I had this feeling when I was younger, when I was in my early 20s, watching horror movies. And I always thought, you know, how come it's, you know, when they pull the shower curtain back and it's Jason to get the person, it's always some young teenager who's not prepared, right? How come they never pull the curtain back and it's Bruce Willis? You know what I mean? You know, they're ready to fight back. And so I started thinking about that, and like, you know, what's interesting is the idea of somebody fighting more. Instead of being a victim in a horror movie, they're actually hunting the monsters in the horror movies. And then it started to think about, like, where should that story begin? And I thought, you know, what happens at the end of, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street is you get to the end of the film and there's a couple survivors left, and they're covered in mud and blood, and their friends are all dead, and their houses have been burned down. And then, you know, the cops pull up and they get in the car and we cut to the credits. And I was thinking, you know, what happens to those people after that window, right? Like, think about how much trauma they've been through, right? Almost loss. And so that's what sort of births the Kill Journal, right? Is that it's really a tale, you know, on the vulnerable side, about people coping with loss and trauma that they don't know how to deal with, right? And then this, you know, and then it's set in this supernatural world of revenants, which are evil spirits back from the dead, bent on revenge, right? And now revenants is a kind of a broad term. It can mean things like slashers, like Jason Voorhees, but also encompasses things like Jiangshi from China, or other. It's a little broader. But the simplest version is somebody like, you know, Freddy Krueger, where they were a person, maybe on the fringe, maybe up to no good. Then they were somehow attacked by the public, and then they come back to haunt. And so, which is also another fun thing, because there's all these stories around these revenants, right? How they came to be. Because some of them there's some sympathy for, right? Even though what they're doing can't be justified. And so, and because they're a spiritual problem, you can't just shoot them or run them over with a truck, right? Gotcha. You've got to solve this spiritual problem in the same way you have to take Jason Voorhees back to Camp Crystal Lake and drown him in the water like he was as a kid, right? When he was bullied. You have to, you know, re-examine the spiritual problem that made this physical monster.
That's really deep stuff, brother.
I'm trying to
like
give
that, though. I like the way you said it, though, because it's true. Every time a movie is ended, with the exception of the original Halloween, you know, 1 and 2, we never really find out whatever happens to someone else, you know, at the end of the movie, after such a traumatic. And of course, the cops get there after it's over.
Of course. They're never there when you need them, right?
So thank you. I like that. I like that take. It sounds very, very interesting.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think with these characters, you know, you see the art behind you. And these are originally done by a French artist. His name's Tonton Revolver. That's his pen name. And I wanted to build these characters, you know, highly detailed, that always kind of had a cut, a bruise, you know, some blood on them, spiked bats, hacksaws, these things that sort of capture the energy of what I wanted this to feel like, that these were rugged, rough people who pulled their weapons out of the shed versus out of the gun shop, right? And they're led by this half-mad preacher named St. George, whose congregation was butchered by one of these revenants. Wow. And he then feels divinely called, right? Or, so to speak, divinely called, right? Or is he just a madman? And so then he turns his church into this training ground. And he has these support meetings, kind of like an AA meeting, if you will, for people who have survived these revenant attacks. And then the ones who he feels like have what it takes, he pulls them out of the meeting and recruits them into his little army that's going after these revenants. And then the book opens with one of these meetings, and a revenant shows up at that meeting and starts tearing into people, and some of the survivors run, and some of them stay and fight. And the ones who stay and fight are the ones he recruits.
Excellent. I like this.
And so,
I'm picturing the movie in my head already. So, that'll be the follow-up question. When are we getting the movie? But let's finish over here.
yeah, I know. I would love to make that happen. I feel like the one thing that's cool about comics is that it's like, I got to make a comic, and just you have a relationship directly with the fans and audience. And I work in television, which has a lot of complicated variables. One, because they're so expensive, and lots of people to make happy who aren't the audience. Yeah. So if it never becomes a film, it was all worth it, and I don't need it to be, but sure, if it does, maybe that would be exciting too.
I see. Now, you said that the artist happens to be French. Did you meet him here in the States, or did you find him elsewhere? So
I found him on ArtStation. Initially, nice. Yeah, it's an online site for hiring concept artists, and I'd hired I've art directed so much animation and pieces that I've just hired dozens of concept artists, and he was one that I just really fell for. And then he ended up getting a job at Riot, and he said, I don't need comic book money anymore. And then so my current artist then, who I think really represents these characters super well, is a guy named Jason Krager, who some of his early books he did for Top Cow or The Darkness and Evangeline.
Oh, I love those books. Love those books. Nice.
I know, right? And he's a truly amazing artist that can deliver. He delivers these outstanding, page a day line work that just really is blowing my mind. And then Steve Cannon is my colorist, and then I do the lettering and the writing. And so which is cool. Which I in some ways I like being the writer and the letterer. You know what I mean now? Because then.
How is that letter? When did you learn to letter too in this whole process, man? So you don't just write a letter, so you're pitching in even more into the book.
Yeah. So I taught myself the software, and I do so much layout when you're pitching television and film. You're always building decks and layout, and so I've been working in layout and Photoshop for a long time. Though you don't letter in Photoshop, though I wish you could better, but it's But what I felt like about it is it's also a way that, like, when you're the writer and the letterer, you can really, when you get to a page, you can rewrite if your lettering is making something messy, right? You can, let's pull that line. I see now that I don't need it, when I'm seeing it with the art, and like, you can get a little bit more specific and make some tweaks that I really appreciate being able to do.
Great. Now, I want to show people, I'm going to do a screen share here. For
okay,
those
you got
watching, it. You could see what's going on here, because this is something really, really cool. Go take a look at the project. Where am I? Let me make sure where my mouse is. Okay, this one. Excellent. So here we are at the Kill Journal Indiegogo. As we said, it's up at 96. With 25 days left for a goal of 12,000 fixed goal. So. Give us that leather bound. That's something that you just actually sent out in the press release, right? So where did this leather bound idea come from, man? Because I remember, for example, one of the first leather bound comic books I ever saw, I don't know if you got to see it, was the Dark Knight Returns leather bound edition from DC.
Yeah.
To me, that looked like a Bible, and it looks so excellent on the bookshelf. So
you said it just right. It's a Bible, right? And because the Kill Journal the why I chose a leather bound is because St. George, this preacher who's like the leader of this band, he keeps a record of all the kills and of all the revenants they encounter and all their history, and he hijacked one of his Catholic Bibles to do it, right? That's like his journal. And so this leather bound is the exact design of the book inside of the comic. So it's like you're reading it's like you're holding the book that you're reading. You know, it's a little meta. What the guy inside is writing, you're reading. And then I also, it's hard to see it too well here in the smaller picture, but I also layered all this symbology into the design of it, which fits into the story as well, and into some of the characters. And it's in the design work there. I can share a screen if you want, but it shows, but it ties into some of the characters and some of the lore, and as a really fun thing to discover when you're reading. Because I felt like, Al, you know, it's like you wanted to feel the world the moment you touched it, right?
Yes.
Right?
We were talking about real escapism in comics, you know, because again, we know that sometimes there's a lot of politics in the comics. I mean, there's always been, but with the social aspect, media aspect of it, it's kind of, you know, thrown in your face so consistently, just to be able to have fun like this. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really want to touch it and escape into a whole different world and escape this crappy 2020 year. You know what I mean? It's a whole different world. Now, I need to know, who the heck is this person on screen? Dylan.
Yes,
is he one of the Revenants?
He's one of the Revenants. So he's the primary villain of this first volume of the Kill Journal. And so he's tied in, without spoiling it away, he's tied into two of the main characters. And this is a pretty epic piece here.
I missed this stuff from back in the day, Gore magazines, comic books. So thanks for even adding that. So cool.
Yeah, I felt like, you know, I wanted this to be a horror movie with a conscience, but it also should be a fun horror movie at the same time. And so hence why you get these sort of crazy images that hopefully make it feel like you're in the world of horror. And
what I love about it, 88-page graphic novel.
Yeah.
Nice. So why 88 pages?
So why I chose 88 is that it's essentially 4 issues, right? And because I feel like, you know, sometimes on crowdfunding campaigns, people are doing like 48 or 60, and it just feels like, man, it's, you know, you got to wait, and it's a little more expensive than the comic shop. And it's like, plus you got to pay shipping. And so it's like, it needed to be a full story.
Yeah.
And then there's 24 additional pages to unlock. So it can be 112. There's these mini stories, because I didn't want to, the origin of each of the hero characters, because I didn't want to spend the whole story saying, hey, here's the origin for this guy. Hey, here's the origin for this guy. And so instead, there's 4 stories in the back that are the night each of the main survivors was attacked. And it gives depth to that story, and it's kind of nice to read it afterwards. And those are done by 4 different artists and 4 different writers. So it's another way also to bring more people to the table.
So you lend out your characters to other team members to allow them to put their vision out forward. That's awesome, bro. I like that. That says, hey, you know, this is my new world, but let's welcome in and expand it quickly. I love that kind of mentality.
Yeah. Good stuff. Thank you.
So let's keep going down here, because something really cool here, right? You know, you have different levels. So, you know, we got the leather bound at 40, right? Then we could get monthly digital issues, $20. So what are we talking about here by monthly digital issues?
So lots of times when people, you know, when a campaign ends, you usually don't, it goes radio silent for months. You get occasional updates. So we're ahead on the comics. So when the campaign ends, you get issue 1 the first month, issue 2 the next month, issue 3 the next month, just like you were collecting it at your local comic shop. So that way, your updates and connection to the to the world is you get an issue every month versus just, hey guys, we're working away. And then, you know, then by the time those 4 issues are done, the leather bound will come. Now, some people like to read the digital and some don't, but everyone who backs gets the digital. So.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, I'm a print man. But, you know, there's some digital books. You know, I don't want to open up a classic book of mine, so that's when I'll go digi. You know what I mean? Now,
you know what? What I kind of find that's funny, Al, is that people who are under 25, they want the digital. People who are over 25, they want the print.
Gotcha. So us old guys and gals want a real book.
Yeah.
All right. So here for $75, you'll get a T-shirt, really cool, with the villain, right? And the leather bound. Now this one I really love. It is really dope. So you get the Revenant mask and the leather bound. Who designed this mask? That's tight. Yeah,
so the mask is a combination of 2 people. So one, it's from the original art of Dylan, and it's a movie quality replica. This is not, and it can be worn. It's got straps and pads inside. It's got little breathing slits. This is something I would, if I was directing a movie, this would be what you would wear on set. It works in super close up.
Nice.
It's a handcrafted thing. And so a guy named who goes by 6x6 on Twitter, the guy in New York, he has a little small shop, and he's been crafting these masks. And I felt like, it was such a cool way to have two things. One is something that's completely tied into the world, which is a mask, right? But a mask is cool because if you can wear it for Halloween, you can wear it to keep out COVID, and you can also put it on your wall or put it on the mantle. It's an art piece as well. And so I thought that's the best way to give you something beyond the pages if you wanted it.
No, and I dig that. That's not something I've really seen before. So, really cool stuff. And here's an awesome bad boy here, but we got a piece of original art as well, for 500. And there's only one of those.
Yeah, there's only one. So there is, if you scroll down a little farther, there's this image called The Rise of the Revenants. And it's coming up. There you go.
Oh,
so this is the print. So it's called Rise of the Revenants, and it's a print that goes to everyone who backs week one. For only the week one backers get this. Wow. It's this beautiful, beautiful piece. And this one is colored by Mike Spicer, who did Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, and Murder Falcon.
Yeah, bro.
And who I just love. He's just
Murder Falcon is fire too, man.
I just love that book, right? He's Daniel Warren Johnson. He's my favorite. But so this piece, but there was an original that was done on 11x17 comic board with pencil, by a guy named Preston Acevedo, and so you can buy that original piece. So an 11x17 piece is awesome, right, to hold in your hands, and so that's also available. Yes, these are I call it Rise of the Revenants.
I don't trust this guy. He looks the crazy. Look at these guys, but this guy to me looks the nuttiest.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. He's the craziest, right?
Man.
He's the one that's like laughing while he kills you. And so like you're right. Like the guy on the top, he pops out of mirrors. The guy in the middle is the most physically powerful, and then this guy on the bottom here, Ricky, is the craziest.
It tends to be like that. I had a lot of skinny friends that looked like that when I was younger, and they were always the nuttier ones for some odd reason.
I know, right? They're always the most dangerous too. You're like, man, that guy.
Is either super skinny or super short. One of those two is always going to get us into trouble. All right, so that guy that you said was at the top, he's the Heart Stealer Revenant.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, and then these are the various short stories we talked about opening up.
Nice.
And then this is the cast here. So I wanted to use, give people a chance to get to know the characters in the world. And I wanted to do it in this, the cleanest, simplest way. And I also built the campaign to look like a comic book because I felt like, campaigns can sometimes be a little dry to read, yes. Right? You got some pictures thrown up there, some black text thrown on white. I was like, can this somehow be fun to read? Hopefully I got there, Al. I don't know. I might have missed, but I wanted to make it at least kind of fun.
No, this is great looking. Again, you have the description of the characters. Hopefully you could, get into look at Marty. Nuts.
Yeah.
Perfect combatant for the cycle from the other page.
Right?
Yep. This one looks like to take on Revenant himself too. Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's right. This is Finch. He grew up in a Mexican border town, right? His dad was a dog fighter. One day a dog didn't show, and so he threw Finch in the ring, and he took out the pit bull as a young kid. And so
his dad said, "You lost my dog. You got to fight this boy now."
Yeah.
Oh man, damn, Papa, you mean?
He's a mean one. And so he ended up. Then his dad raising him like he was one of the dogs, fighting like he was one of the dogs.
Oh wow.
And then Mr. Crispy is his Revenant, came in and kind of wiped everyone out in a fight in an arena, one of the dogfight arenas one day, and that's Finch. So he's the deadliest, though he's the smallest.
Gosh, hey, we were talking. You see, man.
Yes, yeah, I was just saying, yeah.
We got Brecken. He looks like a badass too, boy. He reminds me of what's his name? From Evil Dead. Oh my God, Ash. Got that chainsaw. Got the shotgun.
Yeah, he's got the whole package here. Yeah, he's a Creole guy, you know, a swamp rat, essentially, gator hunter who has voodoo ties that ultimately are going to haunt him and the rest of the club.
Voodoo ties with Revenants. Yeah, that doesn't sound like
he's all tied up. He's deep in it, and he's got his secrets and lies he's keeping. So, and then for shipping, you know, for anybody who's listening overseas, is that I have fulfillment centers in different parts of the world, so you don't have to pay the crazy price for me to ship it to you from the U.S. It'll come straight to your country, and so you just pay cheaper shipping.
That is an amazing thing. Now, because I don't see too many creators do that in this space. So
no, they don't.
So is that something you recommend they do? Do you find that helps in your success? Do you see maybe more international orders on your project because of you offering it this way?
I would say, you know, because I come from board games as well, and it's pretty much the standard in board games, is that the number one complaint when I would hear people on the 8th or any other comic campaign who's overseas is the shipping, right? Because they're going to pay $40 for the book and then $35 to get it shipped. It's just like, it just kills them. They just can't, like, they're like, man, that's just too much, you know? And so what I try to offer it the best. And so it's like, you can get it in the UK for the same price of shipping as you can in the US. And I just do once again, trying to help make it better experience for the backers, you know, make it as cheap as possible. So I wish shipping could be free, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a great deal, though. You know, thank you for doing that, because I have a lot of, you know, Crusader members that are from across the pond, if you will, across the seas, you know, so it's nice for them to be able to dig into this without having to break the bank, just like you said, on shipping alone. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's just too much.
So is this the original cover or a variant?
So this is the cover. So the way it works out is you got the leather-bound cover on the outside, and then the 4 issues are broken up inside with a regular cover. So you still, it's not just you get 88 straight pages of the story. I wanted to give you the value of having 4 covers in there and that art. And so this is the first 6 pages of issue 1. And it's lettered so people can get a sense of the story and the writing, and if it works for them. Because I think sometimes, you know, you sometimes in campaigns you get unlettered pages, so you're not quite sure how the writing is going to be, and so hopefully, you know, this feels like after you've picked up these pages, you're like, ooh, I want to take this ride.
I think they are going to want to take the ride, and compliment you on your lettering skills. Very good job, bro. Very clear.
Thank you.
Your team is doing phenomenal work over here. This is fantastic. And again, I always look at how characters emote. That's one of the first things I see. That, you know, for me, that's how an artist is really an artist. Be able to draw the same character, but give me different sensations of feeling with the character. Yeah. You know, you could easily tell he's very good at emoting.
Yeah, so I agree with you. That's the number one thing, is without it, your book just it just doesn't land, right?
Yep. I mean, look at here, just an example. You could see that sadness in her eyes. You don't see anything here. You hear just somebody all of a sudden, but once you get that close up, it's really drawn well. Look at it.
Yeah. No, this is the Jason Krager's magic.
Oh man, who the hell is this Wolverine guy? Oh man.
Yes, right. So this is one of the Revenants. Okay. And this is that moment I was talking about where they're in that group meeting and a Revenant shows up, and there's some people who run, as you can see in the background, and there's some who stay and fight, like Marty here. She lights her tennis ball grenade and gets ready to fight.
Why is she walking around with tennis balls grenades in the meeting?
Well, that's kind of the gist of it, right? Is like Sydney, before she comes in, you know, she takes that knife out of her car and puts it in her pocket, because it's the idea of it's like, once you've seen the devil that's in the shadows, you're always afraid of what could come out next. So you are prepared in a way a regular person isn't, because you know what can happen. Wow.
Okay, gotcha. Basically, like being someone from New York, all right? Should normally be at the ready.
That's exactly right. You're at the ready.
Yeah, I could tell you a story once when I was taking night school, right? I was walking home. Well, this is from going from Bushwick to Greenpoint, so it's about maybe a 25-minute walk for me, because you know we walk.
But it was back when Bushwick wasn't $1 million for 800 square feet. Yeah,
exactly. You know, so here I am. I'm walking with a friend, and somebody just grabs me from behind, just grabs my shoulder like hard. I didn't think. I just turned around and swang all of a sudden I hear somebody say, "Whoa, whoa, it's me, it's me." But it's at night, and they started running, and as they're running, they say, "Yo, Al, chill, it's me." I'm like, "Who's me?" Turn around, it was one of my friends. He goes, "Bro, I will never scare you again." He goes, "You punched me dead on my chest, bro." So I was like, "Yeah, I think I would be the killjoy." Like, "Yeah, I ain't running, bro."
No, that's right. You would be ready. You would be in the club.
I did not think, I'm telling you, brother. I mean, I felt bad afterwards. I had to buy him a drink. Hey, let's get some juice over here, brother. I was a good boy, all right? But these are great-looking characters with great art, man. We have, as I'm showing again, I just want people to see, 25 days left back to this bad boy. I mean, I think it's going to more than meet the goal and surpass it. Because, come on, folks. Why wouldn't you want to learn about this amazing cast right now? I want to know their origins. So let's please open up them pages, folks, and support this amazing project. And again, check it out. The shipping, again, he has shipping locations in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, EU. So again, you're not going to break the bank on shipping when you could just purchase this awesome book. You're going to save money. You're going to get something that's going to have you escape from this world. Now, I want to try something I haven't tried, Adam, right? Because I was at Podfest earlier this year, right? And at that show, I actually won something called Pod Decks, right? A shout out to the creator of Pod Decks. So basically here is a deck of questions. It's new questions, right?
Okay, that's cool.
So I'm just going to pick out one random card and ask you whatever's on this card, and God, do I hope it's not fresh. All right, so the first, oh man. All right. So let's end the show like this then. What's your worst roommate or house guest story?
So I was in. So it was back when I first got to Los Angeles, right? And I had a roommate. I won't name the name. And I got a job to work on this movie for Paramount, and it was shooting in Utah. And so I was gone for several months in Utah shooting this film. It was called a movie called Genius. And while I was there on the movie, I was sending checks back to my roommate to pay the rent, right? Okay. But what was going on is he wasn't paying the rent. So while I was shooting this movie, I was evicted, but I didn't know it, right? Because I was out. So all my stuff ended up out on the sidewalk, so I don't know this, and so I'm calling my girlfriend at the time to say, "Hey, can you go by and get some of my stuff?" So she's like, trying to go grab whatever bits she can and just fit in her car. And I kind of lost everything. So when I came back, I had no house to come back to. And so that was my worst. That was my worst roommate experience.
Holy smokes! I think I would have hunted that person down.
I mean, I was just like, "Where?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm sending you the checks. What's happened?" And I could never get a straight answer. And it was just like,
He is a worthy addition to the Killjoy.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh man, Adam, so sorry that happened to you. That is crazy. Wow. But karma is a bitch. So I'm sure that they're gonna get theirs because you are getting yours now. With great success in your endeavors. And I know this is gonna be yet another one to check mark as a great success. So folks, again, I've been having it scrolling down the bottom of the screen. Check out the Kill Journal Indigo campaign. Go support this bad boy. Please make sure to follow Adam at Failed Superhero on Twitter. Is there any other places they could also follow you?
Yeah, on Instagram at Failed Superheroes Club, or on Facebook at Failed Superheroes Club as well. I can be seen in those three places. I usually post daily, and especially when I've got a book out, I'm posting daily art and process stuff, and so hopefully some of it is interesting.
Fantastic. Some of it's going to be a whole lot of interesting, man. Come on, man. You were chilling with Sam Jackson as he read 100 Bullets, which is a fantastic book, by the way. I love that book too. My boy put me on for that, and he's a graphic novel type buyer. So all he did was here's out. He gave me all the graphic novels. You need to read this.
Wow.
Boy, I couldn't drop them. Yeah. This is a friend of mine that growing up, he would only buy singles and say, "I would never buy graphic novels. That's not my thing." Now, my age, over 40, and he's replacing all his floppies with omnibuses. This man has a library in his basement. Like, I told him already, whatever day you're moving, I have back pain. I'm not helping you.
I'm not helping you out.
Hell no.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I've kind of gone the same direction too. I was always getting floppies, and now it's like I'd so much rather have the graphic novel. I kind of like, and what I do lots of times, I like buy the first issue digitally, so I don't have a clutter thing. And my wife go, "What's this?" You know, and then I like that. I call my comic shop, put that trade on for me, and then
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm still a floppy man. I've minimized my floppies, and I'm trying to do more graphic. Trying. I like my floppies. I like, I just like visiting the shop once a month. That's just me. I'm an LCS guy. I want to support the shops. I want to support the community. So this is kind of why I don't want to go to a Barnes and Noble. Just get this big graphic novel or order it on Amazon. No, I want to support the shops. It's like we all should. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I order mine all from, I have a shop called Arcane Comics that I do get all my trades through and do everything through, because I'm with you too. But let's keep it local, right?
Yeah, man. So shout out to your comic shop. You said it was what?
It's Arcane Comics.
Awesome. There you go. And my local comic shop is Epic here in Orlando. So shout out to that shop too. So folks, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. All the links will be provided. So if you're watching, you see the links. Otherwise, they're going to be on the bottom of the video or our audio post. Adam, thank you again so much for taking time out of your
busy schedule to
join us and talk about the greatness of the Kill Journal. I can't wait to have this book in my hands, because I think as soon as we're done, I'm going to go back to this bad boy, all right? So with that, folks, I'm Al Mega, Comic Crusaders Podcast, all right? Para que tú sepa, wepa, we're going to be out right now. Hasta la próxima.